Hey everyone, this week I want to look back on the year and highlight some of the metrics that had the most impact on commercial real estate investments. I find it really interesting to consider how the economy actually performed compared to the expectations at the beginning of the year. First, it was widely believed that the US would be in a recession by now. Obviously, that didn't happen. And the 5.2% GDP growth in the third quarter really reiterated just how far off those recession predictions were. At this point, we're estimating 2023 will deliver economic growth in the 2.5% range, which is actually a really strong showing. In addition, the US will add about 2.7 million jobs in 2023 with a still low unemployment rate. At the same time, retail sales have aligned perfectly for a soft landing, with total purchases increasing by just 0.2% on an inflation-adjusted basis. The headline CPI number started the year at 6.4% and stood at half that level, just 3.2% as of October. Core PCE, the inflation metric most closely monitored by the Federal Reserve, also fell significantly from 4.9% at the start of the year to 3.5% in October. Both inflation measurements are expected to decline further by the end of the year. The other widely expected event that failed to materialize was a wave of commercial real estate-driven bank closures. Although a few banks were shuttered, none of those closures were caused by a wave of bad real estate debt. One of the ideas driving the bank failure dialogue was the widely held expectation that commercial real estate would face significant distress, and many believed a wave of delinquencies would hit the market. And yes, a few properties did shake loose, and some investors did hand the keys back to lenders, but the distress was more of a trickle than a wave. Both the Federal Reserve and the FDIC rapidly backstopped banks, and their guidance on commercial real estate extensions and workouts appears to have staved off a lot of the commercial real estate risk, at least thus far. We're not out of the woods yet, but to be at this stage of the cycle with a CMBS delinquency rate of just 4.6% likely beats most people's expectations. From a property fundamental standpoint, I think the market did better than expected, but not as good as we would have liked. This week, I'll share our 2023 year-end forecast rather than the hard third quarter numbers I used in my videos a couple weeks ago. Apartment vacancies are expected to end 2023 at 5.7%, about 80 basis points above year-end 2022. But considering a record 420,000 new units were added this year, inventory growth of 2.2%, and 80 basis point rise in vacancy isn't bad. Another property type that probably exceeded expectations is office. Not because it performed well, but because expectations were so low. We anticipate the office vacancy rate will close 2023 at 17.6%, up 140 basis points from last year. But remember, as I've mentioned in past videos, large, older, urban office buildings have fared worse than smaller, newer office buildings located in the suburbs and smaller cities. So you can't sum up the entire office story with just one narrative. In looking at retail, we anticipate the vacancy rate will close 2023 about 10 basis points higher than last year at 4.7%. But that's for all retail, including both multi-tenant and single-tenant properties. Focusing in on just multi-tenant retail, the year-end vacancy rate should land around 5.2 or 5.3%, which would be the lowest year-end multi-tenant vacancy rate on record back to at least 2007. At the beginning of 2023, I don't think anyone expected record retail sales, nor were they expecting the multi-tenant vacancy rate to end 2023 at a record low. Now, unlike office, I think people's expectations for industrial properties this year were quite high. And ultimately, we're expecting to see annual absorption of around 175 million square feet, which will give us a vacancy rate in the upper 4% range, about 120 basis points above the close of 2022. Like apartments, industrial construction was a major factor, with a record 400 million square feet delivered in 2023. But looking under the surface, over half of the newly added space falls in just 10 markets. So most areas of the country saw little development. So as we close out the year, I think we can look back on 2023 and say that both the economy and commercial real estate generally outperformed expectations. It certainly wasn't the best year on record, but all things considered, it looks like we dodged a bullet. Next week, I'll deliver my final video of 2023, and I'll share some of our 2024 forecasts. That should give you new insights to help you keep your eyes on the horizon.